Good morning, everyone. Thanks for tagging along to our session here. We really appreciate you all taking the time to join us. You might be able to hear my washer. Can you hear that?
There's a little bit of it. You're good now.
Okay, cool. Thanks for taking all the time to join us, and we hope you're enjoying all the other sessions that the Indiana CPA has to offer you today. This is our first webinar with Indiana, and we really appreciate the opportunity to connect with you all. We have a couple partners in Indiana already, so this is kind of fun to connect with other people in this space. But really today is about sharing with you a different way to manage finances and help you and your farming clients become more successful. To help you as accountants become more efficient as well and increase customer satisfaction, drive revenue, all the good things. And for your farmers to have a clearer way and view on how they're actually tracking to become more profitable and sustainable. We know from a decade of experience just how difficult and cumbersome farm accounting can be. And we're really excited to show you a new way with some strategies and tactics that you could begin implementing in your business today. Since you probably all haven't seen us before, I'll let Mitchell go ahead and introduce himself.
Perfect. Thanks, Erin. And obviously good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. Perhaps good morning still. Before we get into it, just quickly introduce myself. My name's Mitchell Parks, and obviously, as Jennifer mentioned, I'm one of our account executives currently based in Denver, Colorado, as I'm sure some of you have heard. I'm originally from southern New Zealand. We grew up on our family with a sheep and beef property with just under 5,000 stock units before we made a transition to dairy in the early 2000s. So had a bit of experience in both camps there. But then as I moved through high school and university, I really enjoyed accounting and finance. So completed a BCom in accounting at the University of Otago before spending a few years working for a national CPA firm in their ag advisory team. So after that, I've stint there, had been with Figured for a couple of years, originally looking after partners, accounting firms and advisors back in New Zealand. And then, as some of you would have heard, made the move up to Denver, Colorado about 9 months ago. And now, working with some amazing partners across the Midwest. So for me, it just fulfills two parts of my life anyway that I'm very passionate about, being farming and good financial management. So it's a lot of fun and great time getting to look around and meet a lot of people across the states as well. And Erin, I think you'd want to give yourself just a little bit more as well.
Yeah. Apologies there for my washing machine. I'm sure you all heard it. Something crazy was happening, but all set now. But my name is Erin. Obviously, I don't have an accent unless you hear my Indianapolis one. But I'm happily Mitch's American counterpart. I'm originally from the northern suburbs. So if you know Fishers, I'm from that area. But I've actually been in Denver 5 years ago, and I've been supporting accountants and their clients ever since moving here, which is really cool. Came after I graduated from Indiana University. So if there's any Hoosiers out there, that's awesome. But prior to Figured, I actually worked at Zero Cloud Accounting. I spent 3 years there becoming really passionate just about helping accountants find efficiency in their workflows and helping them with the change management that is pretty required, when moving to the cloud. Not an easy task. Definitely worked with hundreds of firms with that process. But Figured's really actually allowed me to combine my interest in agriculture. I think if Indiana, that's just surrounds us wherever we are. And then also I still get to work with practices across the U.S. and help you and reach your goals, whatever they may be. But when I'm not working with partners or co-hosting webinars, I love skiing. I love trying new restaurants here in Denver. So if y'all, looks like we have some Boulder people out here, which is awesome. But if you ever make your way over here, we're happy to give some recommendations. But awesome. Let's go ahead and start with the roadmap for our webinar today. First, I'll provide just a quick intro as to who we are here at Figured, what we do, and our place in the accounting workflow. We'll also take a look at the CAS opportunity for accountants and your farming clients. We'll also share some key principles to think about before you enter possibly the journey of agriculture advisory, we'll dive into how you can work together to deliver proactive advisory services. And finally, we will finish off with some action items and tangible steps to move forward. So who is Figured? Figured was founded actually by two accountants who were also farmers. So a couple of Mitchells here. They were actually frustrated by the lack of financial management tools on the market specifically for farming and, their unique set of requirements needed in that space. They decided to start entering data into various systems and were relying on, historical information for a significant business decisions, and it just wasn't the smartest way they felt to work. So Figured was designed around the concept of the farming team in general, and utilizes the financial information available today through your cloud accounting tools, whether that's Xero, whether that's QuickBooks Online, and allows you to input production information on top of that to create tangible and meaningful outputs that, make sense in the context of agriculture specifically. So it brings together the advisor, the farmer, the banker, the agronomist, anyone who touches the farm and can utilize the, same information to make smart and informed decisions. For several years, the accountants have been able to move into the cloud with QuickBooks Online and Xero also heading that way. So that's been really cool to see. And then in general, many of the benefits that you'll see with using Figured, it allows you and your clients to work anywhere, anytime, on any device. It provides full integration to solve, larger challenges like accounting, payroll, payments, invoices. And then unlike a desktop tool, you can easily leverage third-party apps like ourselves. So really many benefits of moving to the cloud if you haven't done that transition already. But we know a bulk of agriculture clients haven't made that move yet. So these benefits haven't been realized by a lot of them. So that's a lot of the conversations that we have. We also know that farmers need your expertise to navigate to the cloud and to navigate, the ups and downs of their business. So there really isn't need to provide advisory services to farmers today. And we'll touch on the opportunity specifically in the coming slides. But our team at Figured have come together to help you deliver enhanced farm reporting, as well as advisory services that drive efficiency, growth, and profitability. And, this enables you to provide real-time financial data and insights across the entire farming team. This is just a quick summary slide of kind of the work Figured has done thus far. We've been around for 10 years, starting in New Zealand, and are the world's largest agriculture accounting platform. We have over 35,000 farms and 400 accounting firms worldwide. We're obviously here in the US, also Canada, and then as well, we have some farmers in the UK and Ireland, and then Australia, and then our biggest market in New Zealand. Stats on the screen are for 2023, so we actually have a few more than what's up there. But to give you a sense of it, New Zealand is the largest dairy exporter, and about 70% of the farmers there use Figured. So we have a lot of unique data that, even the Reserve Bank uses, which is kind of like the Federal Reserve equivalent, and they use it for their State of the Nation updates. So it's a large pool of data that a lot of people use to, make decisions and move forward, which is really cool.
Cool. So the main thing, obviously, we want to touch on today is, how can Figured fit into that client advisory services, or CARES, you'll hear us say. How can we fit into that window and support you to be able to grow and to nurture those, those clients into that space? So obviously today we're going to talk a bit more about that. So firstly, it'd be good just to, align on what we think CARES really is. And obviously it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But in the context of this webinar, we'll basically be referring to CARES as that value add services. So beyond the traditional tax and compliance, which, don't worry, I know is important. I've done it. But we also believe that we can help clients make some more, strategic and informed financial decisions that are going to obviously grow their overall business performance. Treating the farm as a business versus something that might have just been for passion and for love. We know that in a lot of cases, the modern farm needs to be run as a profitable organisation, and in doing so, you need to take on some modern strategies to be able to do that. And it's essentially allowing you to be proactive and forward-thinking versus reactive. So it's about providing, those high-value services in real time that can also have a bit of a real impact on that business, but also using, your existing teams, your existing workflows, and your existing touch points. We're not come out here to try and reinvent the wheel. We want to be able to integrate this into what you're already doing a really good job of today. So we believe CARES is a way to take not only your own team, but also your clients on a journey into more impactful, more meaningful conversations, obviously geared towards understanding farm performance. So we also think that that's a story that struggles to really be told in accounting solutions alone. And so we want to be able to, take the opportunity to provide services that are just beyond tax and compliance. So things like planning and budgeting, three-way forecasting, up-to-date financial analysis with KPIs, in the sense of farming, in the farming business. So again, it's about giving you the opportunity to be proactive and forward-looking, future-focused. All those things that can be really exciting and can get us really, for me anyway, that was what really used to spin my wheels, was when you could really get into the details of how can we really grow this business. And I'm sure that's the same for a lot of you on the call today. So the other thing that's worth appreciating is that farmers are working in a pretty volatile industry, whether that's things like high interest rates, fluctuating conditions, changes in the weather, harder access to capital. All those sorts of things are what the average farmer is making decisions on a day-to-day basis. So we do think that they need the help of a trusted advisor now more than ever. We also think they need to be planning more than they ever had. I do used to think about the budget that we used to have, that I used to see come out at home, and it was a piece of paper that got sat down. It was a few notes scribbled on it. And went, cool, here's the budget for the year. And if you ask farmers, 70 or 80% of them probably say they have a budget. But I would guarantee a large chunk of that, that component will say, yep, we made the budget, and then it went into the bottom drawer in the office and was never seen again for the rest of the season. So in my opinion, that's not really a budget. That's just it's a bit of a tokenistic thing, being like, yeah, we had a go, and then there's no reporting back to it or anything like that. So we want them to be planning proactively and being engaged in that. And to do so, we believe that comes with the help of you guys as their advisor. And, obviously tax and compliance services, they're important. We need to be doing them. It's required by law. But we don't think that's also going to, help these farming clients navigate the volatile conditions that are going to be coming up. Nor do we think it's going to help them grow the profitability or the sustainability of their business. So that's where we really think CAS comes into this piece of the puzzle. And as an accountant or as an advisor, you become part of that trusted farming team, which I think is really important and really exciting. And when you look at some of these updates as well, AgriWebb, who do a global farmer survey, they call it their State of the Farmer report. And last year's results, the number one priority for farmers was increasing profitability. I found that really interesting because when you think about farmers tradition, I think about it from my own background. Being profitable generally wasn't the number one priority. It was setting up the farm for another big season ahead. It was about increasing production. It was about setting it up, for the next generation to come through. It was about getting new equipment, new whatever it might be. But this last season, the number one was increasing profitability. And I do think that's really interesting because I just don't think, when you think about it traditionally, farmers don't get into farming to make money. It's for the love of the land, freedom, the lifestyle, being able to do something work with your family. So I think this is a really good indication and a really interesting indication of where the industry is heading, and again, why it's becoming so important for advisors to start playing a part in this CAS space. So it's just a really interesting thing to start seeing now. But when it comes to managing finances, it's not a problem that, you think farmers are quite independent. It's not just something that whenever something's going wrong, they'll just think, well, let's just work harder. We'll just do more, we'll work more hours, all this sort of thing. When it comes to managing your finances, just getting on and working harder doesn't really work. So it's around having that team around us, and it leans perfectly into this CAS opportunity for you guys and their advisors.
Yeah, that's a great point, Mitch. And we've seen farmers don't just need that advisory. They actually really value it as well. So we did conduct a survey with Zero Cloud Accounting, which is one of our accounting cloud platforms, and found that 83% of farmers find their accountant really valuable when they provide advisory services, compared to only 23% when providing just tax and compliance services. So that's a 260% increase in how much your clients can find legitimate value in you and your services when they, know they're getting advisory, and you're helping them with that goal of profitability. And then when 83% of your clients find you really valuable, things are obviously going to look slightly different at your firm. And it'll look different because our data says they'll actually happily pay more for it, which is always a good sign and a good news to you. So while many think CAS is growing at a solid rate, around 16% year over year from recent research, actually, when you relate it back to the potential in agriculture, there's actually quite a discrepancy. We've done some analysis across our existing accounting partners, which we have over the 400 who service over 35,000 farms. And what this graph is showing you is that the breakdown across different products, which directly correlates to the services the firms are offering. So on the left there is the orange. We have firms that just do tax and compliance services. Maybe they use our farm reporter for the after the fact reporting. In the blue and green, there's an uplift there for those that actually implement those advisory services. So 198% increase there. And then lastly, for those that maybe they were only doing it for their main farm with us for farm manager, for example, they're looking ahead to the future, then they add it to all of their entities, since we know, most farmers don't just have that one single entity or business operation they're working with. So it shows an average uplift of almost 200 to 300% in revenue, which, is a huge opportunity for those making that strategic shift from focusing purely on tax to even just implementing a little bit of advisory services with their farmers. And you can tell that specifically in the ag sector, there is that substantial revenue growth right in front of you if you are working with any farmers. And the other thing I wanted to touch on is the challenge faced by, the accounting profession globally. Obviously, a lot of you maybe haven't entered CAS because without a doubt, it's harder to retain good staff for the long term. We've seen that 82% of accountants leaving the profession have more than 6 years of experience. So those are really valuable people that you probably have had on your team. It's a field that more accountants want to get into regarding CAS because it is rewarding and it is invigorating. It's also creating the natural opportunity to become more involved with the farming team, someone whose opinion is valued and they're considered valuable part of the client's business, not just someone they see maybe once a year. So if we take a pause for just a second, we just covered quite a bit of information there, but there is quite the perfect storm, one might say. Farmers need advisory. So times have never been tougher. They're willing to pay you for, well-informed, meaningful services that make a real impact on their business. Agriculture provides a significant revenue opportunity, which is great news for you all, and perhaps more than any other industry, in the sector. And being in Indiana, farmers are obviously present here. And then lastly, it's invigorating and exciting. So not only is the opportunity there, but people who work at your firm will likely enjoy making the difference
and getting to do more than just taxes and work with pretty interesting information, which is awesome. But let's not lose sight of this. CAS isn't just an opportunity for you all as CPAs, but it's one for farmers too. We know that agriculture is a tight-knit industry, and those who work in it really do have a deep love for it. I don't think you can be a farmer if you don't really love it. So giving your farmers better information for that decision making and providing them a clearer view on what their short-term, medium, and long-term goals and future really look like makes a meaningful difference to their success. Having accurate as well as up-to-date financial and production information means you can easily help farmers make better decisions and confidently plan for the future, which at the moment, maybe with the workflow you're using, might seem much more difficult. And then also having the right mindset, framework, and technology at your disposal, it can really help ease the pressure on your firm and help you lean into CAS in a really effective and productive way. So if all this is really positive and great, why are firms struggling to implement it? The reality really is agriculture is one of the most complex industries in the world. There's many nuances. There's many specifics to that industry. Accounting firms have tried to unlock this opportunity using what's currently available, their current workflows, such as desktop, generalist accounting, and lots of manual spreadsheets, which obviously can lead to problems. And then also the problem is you can't unlock the opportunity in an industry as unique as agricultural with general accounting tools and spreadsheets, at least in an efficient way. And even though cloud accounting is incredibly powerful, we know that it's difficult to unlock the ag opportunity by combining it with strictly maybe what you're using thus far. So what we found is, working status quo just hasn't been as successful for those wanting to lean into the ag opportunity.
Definitely. And so, what we just want to share now is more what do we think some of those key principles can be from establishing an ag CAS perspective. And this is obviously a lot from our learnings with working with obviously partners across not only North America, but obviously some other countries as well. And, where do we think some of the fundamental principles are to be able to create those building blocks and actually, really lean into it in a way that's not going to be a drag or time consuming or anything like that for your firms, and, take away from that core part of your business that you're already doing, a great job at. So we do think that building CAS can come from your really solid tax and compliance accounting basis. So we know you're really good at what you do, and using those skills is essentially what we can build into those CAS services. We know ag producers value continuity. They can be some of the most trusting people. A case of if it's not broke, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If they're happy with what they're getting today and working, they're going to want to grow. They'll listen to your opinion. And we've seen it time and time again where it's just taken that little nudge from the advisor to get them into the next thing. And so we think it's really important to have a coherent approach in regards, to your strategy to be able to grow CAS. But then also spending time getting this right before diving off into tactics is essential. I think a lot of people might try and get started right in the deep end and go for the whole hog right off the start, and it becomes one of those things, you essentially drown in it. So we know you have a great customer base that can be leveraged. You know the numbers and are the financial experts in the case of this particular client, this particular business. You've got extremely high levels of trust, and then you might have a known competency in a vertical like agriculture. So you've got this chance to sort of be a thought leader in the market, position yourself, and also be opinionated on the technology and the tech stack that you're using. And we see it as an opportunity that's not just limited to CPAs at all. We think it's a unique proposition for bookkeepers and bookkeeping businesses to take advantage, of these same opportunities because they've got those same fundamental roots and foundations. So when this is all done really well, we think that's when that flywheel can really start to spin from a relationship and from that advisory perspective as well. Then the key piece is understanding your CAS priority. And from our experience, we see that a typical accounting firm, their goals for CAS typically fall into one of these three buckets. Sometimes there might be a couple more if you're a larger firm, but when we break it down, it usually falls into establishing CAS, which is just getting started and picking out a small few to get going with. Scaling is you're already doing a little bit. You might have that 10, 15% of clients that you're doing some form of it for, but you're wanting to get more efficient. You're wanting to grow it out into that middle majority of clients and partners that are going to be needing it. And then finally, there's optimizing CAS. So that's when we've got those workflows in place. We've got a core base doing it. How can we make it faster, bring in more team members, offer more to our clients? So I think it's really key to understand where you think you might fit in this piece. And yeah, I think you'd appreciate if you just had a bit of a think, where do you think you might sit in one of these buckets today? I'm sure some of the bullet points there might look and sound familiar, and there might be some other considerations to go through when hopefully we'll get a chance to have a little bit of a demo shortly as well. The next piece is around being opinionated. You've earned the right to be opinionated. I think as advisors, we tend to maybe get a little bit shy when we start wanting to offer our clients advice or opinions, but then we also start to get a little bit worried about how we're going to charge for it as well. The example I always like to give is 9 times out of 10, we don't question what the lawyer fee is going to be when we purchase a house or something like that. It's because they know that their time is really valuable and they're going to charge for it accordingly. And we believe accountants and advisors are in exactly the same position to be really opinionated. You also can't establish or scale CAS from a tech stack mess. So what I mean by that is using multiple different tools, multiple different solutions to try and get to the same or similar outputs for a different batch of clients. When you're letting your clients decide what tools you use to deliver your services, that's where you end up with multiple systems, lots of spreadsheets, and ultimately inefficiency. So we do see a lot of firms, they sort of get stuck in this because they've got this really trusted relationship, and it's also a point where we're not quite confident enough just to have more of a stronger opinion. From our experience anyway, we do believe you've earned that right. We believe you can really get into it, and we think that accounting firms are best placed to recommend the best solution. It's absolutely within your warehouse, and because we touched on it before, farmers really trust your relationship, and they will value your opinion. They might challenge you on it, but they're going to listen. And we think with that shift to the cloud, there's a bit of a generational opportunity to introduce some of these specifics and introduce some of these options and services into your clients. Then one analogy that I like to use a lot, and it was actually one that one of our partners gave to us, is being reactive to proactive, and it's like looking out the windshield versus using the rearview mirror. And the way he said it was that the rearview mirror is only a tiny little piece of equipment compared to the whole windshield. But when we're working that tax and compliance piece, we're spending so much time looking at what's happened over the last year, when really we want to be focusing on what's coming up. How can we plan? Really get into embracing a consultative approach. So beyond simply reporting, sharing numbers, taking a hands-off approach, let's use those numbers to start offering those opinions. You've got a wealth of information and learnings from managing multiple clients that you can start to apply this into those different client conversations as well. And then it's also a focus on future potential, not just historical data. Thinking about tax and compliance as that rearview mirror, planning, budgeting, CAS and advisory as the windscreen. It's providing a clear view on what's coming up. So when you're repositioning your services with your tools and team to be a better place of having these new conversations, we think that this is where that value really starts to come into it, and you get into that value-based pricing model as well. And it's about starting small. there's no point getting in this and trying to do it for everyone all at once. You'll burn yourself out. You'll burn your team out. You're not going to enjoy doing it. So although small, it's enough to open that door to where you can build that trust and relationship with the clients. It motivates your team. It empowers them, to do some more of that exciting work. And then, obviously the revenue piece as well. But most importantly, it's the impact that you can have on your clients' businesses, and grow them and, be part of that farming team. Very quickly, just wanted to mention around, going from general to vertical specific as well. So general accounting tools like QuickBooks, for example, are great accounting tools. They're not great farming tools. So when we move into, an example like agriculture, it's not a traditional inventory. Corn is grown from sunshine and rain. We grow cows, from birth and then sell them out at a particular age and stage. So metrics like profit per bushel or revenue per acre are essential in the context of agribusiness. And this is the sort of information we think could really be make or break. But without the right tools, it's going to be extremely difficult to gain insight into that. And, farmers need reports tailored to their industry, like crop season summaries, livestock gross margin reports, being able to generate them in an ag specific context without manipulation, without trying to copy and paste into multiple spreadsheets, is what we think can make it really easy for accountants in the ag space in particular to be able to do it and grow that service with their farming clients as well.
Yeah, so if easing into CAS kind of is where you feel like your firm is sitting, we'd love to cover, how we feel you can actually get started, and honestly, how we've seen other firms implement it in a really fruitful, efficient, and effective way. And usually that is following these 3 steps to scaling the CAS solution. And that being prioritize, productize, and then communicate. First, you want to prioritize, where are we going to start? Who do we feel that these services would be applicable to? And who do we feel would actually really find them valuable? And then also, who do we feel needs this expertise and, would value the advisory services? Secondly, productize. What services are we actually going to provide? What outputs are we going to be presenting to them in addition to what we are already providing for them right now? And then how can you use the right tools and technology to standardize it, deliver it at scale, and then monetize that advisory as a service in an effective way, in an approachable way for your clients? And then lastly, communicate. How do you communicate these benefits? We have it all in place. We feel it's going to be great for the firm, but how can we actually communicate it to the farming clients so that they see the value, they want these services, and, they're willing to pay for it? While the communicate stage is particularly important and sometimes the most difficult, for today's webinar, we only have time to cover the first 2, prioritize and productize. So prioritization, unlocking this is often just the key of even getting started. When you're thinking about CAS, it can be difficult to break it down into manageable chunks, approachable. I think for any project, that's a great way of approaching it. You don't want to try and boil the ocean. Let's start with a pot. And, it takes away from the core business if you don't, prioritize efficiently from the beginning. So where accounting firms are finding the most success and what we've seen is segmenting your client base on your needs and then prioritizing the clients that need and will value the service the most. So like I just mentioned in the last slide, that way you know exactly who to start with, what they need, and then how you can add value beyond maybe just compliance. This makes it easier to get started. You're then just working with a small group, and then you'll work with another small group, then you work with another small group, then you have a big group. And in some case, that's the hardest part, is just identifying that first group you think it'll be successful with. But the great news is that spending time on that, just the prioritization of it all, is incredibly worthwhile. As we touched on earlier, you're building your CAS work on these amazing foundations your firm already has. Your people already trust you and they like working with you. The relationships, you have built that trust over time. And so it should come as no surprise that your existing customers are a great people to look at to start implementing this CAS opportunity. You don't have to go out and find new clients. We have seen firms take that approach. Oh, I'm only going to, add CAS with new people I add. But these people haven't expressed interest. You don't have that trust with them built already. And many of the people you're working with might already be thinking about the numbers and, purchasing other properties and expanding their operations or looking to the next generation for the farm and so on. So they already have, those gears going that CAS would be a great solution to. So a credible amount of untapped potential in the book of business that you already have today. So let's look at an example of how we might want to segment and then prioritize those clients. So as a starting point, these are kind of 3 buckets that we've created that you could start segmenting your clients into. It helps you easily identify the client data and personal knowledge of your clients, and you can then segment them in different ways. So for example, maybe you want to group people with those who you can work with more efficiently. They're currently planning and budgeting on a spreadsheet with you. Maybe there's double handling of multiple products. Maybe people are already asking you for those or those last minute plans. So that would be more of a scalable approach of, who am I maybe doing this with so far, but I could be doing it more efficiently and maybe actually identifying it as a service. Secondly, those are those who maybe have growth opportunities in front of them. Is their operation growing? They're leveraging debt, but maybe not in the most efficient way. Or maybe they're looking to succession plan right now. So that would be another group. Things are going well, and there's opportunity of them to grow. And then lastly, maybe there's a group of clients where they're actually under a lot of pressure. They're highly leveraged. They have significant interest costs. They maybe anticipate the next season being hugely affected by changes in various market conditions. So that could be kind of that third bucket. And the great thing about this is you probably already know some people in each one of these buckets. And if not, these characteristics are easily identifiable in the conversations you're probably soon going to be having just going into tax season. Awesome. And so thinking about where many accounting firms are at now and where we think it's important to get to, we can identify that new revenue coming from that, existing client portfolio. This pyramid isn't representative for all firms, but it is a broadly typical breakdown of what we've seen in the market. So obviously you have your top 10% of clients, maybe doing that advisory for already. They're your white glove and highly customized. That's actually pretty hard to scale. There's then those that you provide some level of advisory to, and in a certain situation or a catalyst occurs, or maybe it's really ad hoc. When they need it for a bank, succession planning, it's very reactive and actually usually most disruptive to you and your firm's workflows. And then lastly, we have the ever widening middle band. So it's that cohort of clients. They should be planning ahead. They should be receiving some advisory services, but maybe you don't know that they need that yet. And you're currently not providing it to them in a structured way, at least. And often these relationships are, surrounding tax. These questions only come up this time of year. So we're trying to move this pyramid to something more like this. You have your top tier, you still have your white glove people. You have your more proactive advisory group of clients where you maybe have those set services for. They get this every single year. We're having these conversations. And then you still have your tax and compliance clients that you're working with. Which is still very realistic to still have. And they could perhaps maybe doing more like small, light technology delivered insights and outputs. So you're still engaged. You still, though, have that larger band where you're getting the most added revenue. And we know, though, you can't do that middle band for all of your clients. So yeah, still very realistic to know you still have your top tier. You still have your very tax and compliance heavy clients.
Definitely. Yeah. And that prioritizing is, I think key to the long-term successes. We're making sure we're doing it with the right clients for the right reasons. The last bit that we wanted to touch on is around, ultimately productizing these solutions. And we want to look at some more practical use cases of how can we design and deliver those services at scale, and how you can deliver more to those ag clients in an efficient but really standardized way. So in the same way that prioritizing customers is critical, so is productizing the services you deliver. We've got the stacks of agriculture-specific outputs that are available out of the box when you start using vertical-specific tools. And it's not just agriculture; that could be any vertical industry as well. You unlock that capability, that's housed within a general accounting tool that ultimately spreadsheets never could for the majority. So we've heard everywhere from accountants so much they want to sort of see the how this is actually done and how do we assemble some of those services based on what some of those outputs might be. So obviously today we want to very quickly show you that. And before I get into the demonstration of it all, is we think that a productized solution looks something like this, where you've got each of these as their own. Think of it as a bucket in a way where everyone's still getting a version of something. In this example, it's a 12-month cash flow. But then each time we move through those tiers, then that's when we're adding in another productized output. So again, it's standardized across your client base. You've got these optional add-ons, but then that also comes, at a separate price point as well. So it's about pricing not only your time more efficiently, it's also you're providing an intrinsic value into each of those outputs, but it's about the conversation that you can then have around it. We think that there might be some people that maybe are getting a little bit of a better deal than others when they're in these buckets. But again, it's around that power of the majority. We've prioritized and we've got them into this productized solution. That means we can then charge accordingly and give them an output that they're going to understand. So really quickly, appreciate we've got a few minutes left, so just wanted to show you, what could this actually look like from a figure perspective. And the way that this all works is that we bring in through the live accounting data. So in this case, I've got it connected to a QuickBooks Online file. That's a single ledger connection. It's live. It's always on. If you've just gone in and reconciled the bank statement and you want to see the most recent up-to-date information coming through, hit that sync button and we've got that all again through in real time. So there's no double handling or copying, pasting from one tool into another tool into another tool. It's that live connection, bringing it all through from one source of truth, being that single ledger, and then into the figured file. So then we can start to see these transactions coming through, at an individual basis. So here's a gas, fuel, and oil expense line. I can click that hyperlink and it'll take me straight back into the QuickBooks Online transaction as an example. So if you might notice it was misreconciled or something like that, the value might not be right, we can go back into the accounting file to adjust that. So the accounting file is always the source of truth for the financial data. We're not trying to manipulate and change transactions. This is still a very important tool for the tax and compliance piece. We want to make sure those values maintain their integrity. So when it comes to then establishing the CAS, we can then start to allocate these transactions into specific cost centers, specific profit centers within the business. So in this case, I want to allocate some interest specifically into my corn crop. I'm going to allocate it, in this case, evenly across all my fields. I could break it down just evenly as well. Yeah, we're trying to reflect what's happening in reality on the farm. And again, all we're trying to do is just get to those tangible outputs that lets you have that conversation that's really value add. We don't want to be double handling it all, so we can set up these rules to automate it. So whenever we've reconciled a particular transaction back in QuickBooks, it's going to flow into Figured and it'll automatically get pushed into that specific production center. So in this case, my corn crop for the upcoming season. So if we look into those trackers more specifically, here's my breakdown. I've got a total area that I've got planted out. And then I can start to record, these specific costs down at an account level line, but then also to a specific transaction level. So we can see it beginning to be broken down at a per acre level, at a per bushel level. It's, again, we're trying to make it tangible, reflecting what's really happening on that farm to get you to an output that's really important. Obviously, adding in your harvest information as that comes through. We're obviously planning and budgeting for this as well. We can do that reactive analysis on break even maybe, but then we can also start to look into the future going, well, what price do I need to be able to make a profit. What's my break-even corn price? What's my profitability price for X amount? We can start to really drill into that and break it down. So that ultimately is producing a specific output, in this case, a crop season summary report. We want to look at it over the whole season. Maybe we just want to break it down at a per month level. We can start to do that as well. But it's about getting it into, this is the output that we've produced in a really quick amount of time that we can then go and actually have the conversation with. And the conversation is the bit that's really valuable. So we can share that, across our whole farming team, add in their emails, send it out. It pushes everything out as a PDF, to those clients, to those key members in the team as well. Really quickly, just on livestock. So again, we're getting it all into a sense that is tangible and realistic to break down this financial information and then pair it up with this production data. So showing what's happening on farm, specific financial value of particular transactions, and then getting it into an output again. So we've got our gross margin report. What is our profitability per head for the season that's been, and what do we need for the season coming up? The last piece is just around the automation. So using things like report packs, we can lump a core group of these reports together. So it might be a monthly cash flow, a P&L, a variance to budget report, and maybe one of those gross margin reports as well. We can automate this across your entire farming base, so it's not just specific to one farm. We want it to be scalable. There's no scalability in customization at a client level. We want to standardize it across the base and then grow into it from there. So we've got our team into the report pack. We've got it scheduled to flow at a monthly basis, and each month I'm going to get a copy of that output into my inbox. And so we've got a cover page into that cash flow, our variance report, and our crop season summary report. So that was probably pretty quick. Probably quite a bit of info in there as well. So I guess the last piece we want to go into is just what are some of those next steps that we can take. I think Erin, you might want to chat through some of those for us.
Yeah, definitely. If you want to go on to the next slide. So we do have an ag CAS ebook that I'm putting, I guess it's not hyperlinked, but the link in the chat. It kind of goes over a lot of what we went over today. It's pretty dense. It's definitely an ebook. So it's completely free to you if you want to take a look and download that. And it goes through just really practical tips of getting started and some testimonials from accountants and Intuit to share insights. And then kind of another next step on just getting started with Figured. We know that to move forward, we do suggest you obviously have got good foundations in place, and that is using cloud technology. So we do integrate with QuickBooks Online or Zero Cloud Accounting. We have firms that use both. We do not, though, integrate with desktop or spreadsheets. So we do suggest, implementing that first and foremost. And we do have partners like VARC Solutions that can help in this migration. They can support the transition, help you clean up data too, which we know the conversion itself is not that difficult when you have the file, but it is trash in, trash out in that conversion. So cleaning up that file, we know, is kind of that biggest step. And VARC Solutions does help with the scoping and strategizing of that. If you already are using QuickBooks Online, it's really easy to get started with Figured. We have a free demo farm that you can work and play with as a sandbox as well. You can create a free login. As well, if you want, we can do a free one-on-one demo. Obviously, the one we did today was a bit quick. We'd love to show you outputs that are more relevant specifically to your firm and what you think your clients would find relevant, your farmers. And then also we do have a quick start program. So that program is full support from our team. If you decide you want to start Figured with a small group of clients, it's everything from onboarding, training, and education. Also help, the prioritization of clients of who we think it would be best fit for to start with Figured. And then what outputs do you want to prioritize implementing as well? We also do help with the marketing and communicating, that last bit, the communicating of the benefits to clients. Plus, everyone who attended this webinar, we will help set up your clients and their first financial plan for free. with last year's actuals, which is pretty cool with Figured. We'll also set up automated reports like the report pack you saw in the demo. And then obviously the free online and customer support if you decide today you want to look into Figured. And then lastly, if you would like, we have our poll here, which you can indicate, I'd like just some support with QuickWiz Online. I want a personalized demo, or I want more info on Figured's Quick Start program. I believe that Jennifer, will you be launching the poll, Jennifer, or they can put it in the chat?
I believe that it has been launched, Christina.
Cool.
Perfect.
Yes, it has been launched. We've gotten quite a bit of responses. If you guys want no interest, just you can skip this poll. I forgot to add that option for the attendees out there. But.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Probably appreciate we've gone a little bit over time there. Sorry, Jennifer. So if there's any specific questions here, don't hesitate to get in touch. Keen to support those that are wanting to learn a little bit more. But yeah, thanks everyone for taking the time to jump on, and thanks Jennifer and the Indiana CPA Society for taking the time to have us on.
Yeah, thank you both, Aaron and Mitchell, for your time. We really appreciate it. And if there were, I think, a few questions that we didn't get to. So, what's the best way for them to contact you if they want to follow up?
Yeah. Easiest way is just honestly head to figured.com. There's a get in touch bubble there, or email either us, Mitchell Parks at figured.com, or Aaron Eric at figured.com.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much. We are going to take a little break, and we will be back on at 12 o'clock. Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.